And so we're now kind of spitting distance or a couple of years. It's not really clear. Is it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, but a couple of years away from having computers that theoretically could crack all encryption standards.
I saw Sundar post it. I saw it in my feed. I ended up missing my next meeting because I had to figure out how long will it take for us to crack the encryption standards that we use for Bitcoin. If you think of Willow as essentially like one stable, logical qubit equivalent in a chip, we need about 4,000 to break RSA 2048. And we need about 8,000 to break SHA-256, which is the underlying encryption framework for Bitcoin.
Google unveiled its latest quantum processor, Willow, last week, marking a significant milestone in the evolution of quantum computing. This new chip pushes the boundaries of computational power and addresses key challenges in the field. Willow is capable of solving calculations that would take the fastest classical supercomputer an estimated 10 septillion years to complete. Quantum tasks that once seemed theoretical can now be completed in under 5 minutes, showcasing the transformative potential of quantum technology. In a tweet announcing the development, Google and Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai wrote, "Introducing Willow, our new state-of-the-art quantum computing chip with a breakthrough that can reduce errors exponentially as we scale up using more qubits, cracking a 30-year challenge in the field." In benchmark tests, Willow solved a standard computation in less than 5 minutes that would take a leading supercomputer over 10 to the power of 25 years, far beyond the age of the universe. Pichai also noted that Willow is an important step in building a useful quantum computer with practical applications in drug discovery, fusion energy, battery design, and more. Many prominent people, including SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk, applauded the development, and others were quick to mention that such powerful quantum computing chips could eventually, someday in the future, break Bitcoin's encryption. Investor Ash, a data and tech leader with a PhD in computing science, according to his Twitter profile, wrote, "University of Sussex researchers estimate that breaking Bitcoin encryption in one day would need 13 million qubits. Willow has 105 qubits. Not possible today, but theoretically, approximately 124,000 Willows to break the encryption in one day and 340 Willows in 1 year." In the latest episode of the All In podcast, billionaire investors Chamath Palihapitiya and David Friedberg discuss the giant leap in computation technology Willow represents and what this development means for cryptography encryption and security in the coming years. As we bring you clips from the discussion, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for the support, and enjoy the video.
Yeah. The big breakthrough here is that the whole basis of a quantum computer is called a qubit or a quantum bit. It's radically different than a bit, a binary digit, which we use in traditional digital computing, which is a 1 or a 0. A quantum bit, you can kind of think about it as a wave function. It's sort of a quantum state of a molecule. And if we can contain that quantum state and get it to interact with other molecules based on their quantum state, you can start to gather information as an output that can be the result of what we would call quantum computation. And that sounds complicated, but what it really means is that instead of doing kind of binary computation where we're adding numbers together or doing kind of other traditional arithmetic, there are really interesting functions you can do with qubits. Qubits can, for example, be entangled. So two of these molecules can actually relate to one another at a distance. They can also interfere with each other, so canceling out the wave function. And then when you read it out, you get a result that is basically a very, very complex problem that is solved through this quantum interpretation. It's really hard to kind of highlight how different this is from traditional computing. So quantum computing creates entirely new opportunities for algorithms that can do really incredible things that really don't even make sense on a traditional computer. They're not possible to kind of resolve on a traditional computer. And sorry, let me just state one thing. The quantum bit needs to hold its state for a period of time in order for a computation to be done. And so the big challenge in quantum computing is how do you build a quantum computer that has multiple qubits that hold their state for a long enough period of time that they don't make enough errors that you can actually do a computation with them. So what Google was able to demonstrate here is they created these, call it logical qubits. So they put several qubits together And by putting several qubits together, they were able to kind of have an algorithm that sits on top of it that figures out, hey, this group of physical qubits is now one logical qubit, and they balance the results of each one of them. So each one of them has some error. And as they put more of these together, what they were able to demonstrate for the first time ever is that the error went down. So when they did a 3x3 qubit structure, the error was higher than when they went to 5x5, and then they went to 7x7, and the error rate kept going down and down and down. So this is an important milestone because now it means that they have the technical architecture to build a chip or a computer using multiple qubits that can all kind of interact with each other with a low enough fault tolerance or low enough error rate that they can start to do these quantum calculations. This is a big area of opportunity. One of the very interesting areas that a lot of people are talking about is in cryptography. So there's an algorithm by a professor who was at MIT for many years named Shor. It's called Shor's algorithm. And in 1994, 1995, I think around that time, he basically came up with this idea that you could use a quantum computer to factor numbers almost instantly. And all modern encryption standards, so all of the RSA standards, everything that Bitcoin's blockchain is built on, all of our browsers, all server technology, all computer security technology is built on algorithms that are based on number factorization. So if you can factor a very large number, a number that's 256 digits long, theoretically, you could break a code. And it's really impossible to do that with traditional computers at the scale that we operate our encryption standards at today. But a quantum computer can do it in seconds or minutes. And so we're now kind of spitting distance or a couple of years. It's not really clear. Is it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, but a couple of years away from having computers that theoretically could crack all encryption standards. And there are a set of encryption standards that are called post-quantum encryption. And all of computing and all software is going to need to move to post-quantum encryption in the next couple of years. So there's like this big kind of push now to like, how do we do that? How do we accelerate it?
Experts believe that quantum computers could someday make today's encryption systems obsolete. However, Google Quantum AI Director and COO Charina Cho says Willow is nowhere near ready for that. The Willow chip is not capable of breaking modern cryptography, Cho recently noted in an interview. Estimates are we are at least 10 years out from breaking RSA, and that around 4 million physical qubits would be required to do this. According to investor Ash, someone has done a quick calculation based on Moore's law and estimated that we will be able to break RSA in 13 years. Chamath, a Bitcoin investor, says he has done some calculations of his own and arrived at some very scary conclusions.
I saw Sundar post it. I saw it in my feed. I ended up missing my next meeting because I had to figure out how long will it take for us to crack the encryption standards that we use for Bitcoin. Nick, here's the answer, because I was so tilted by this idea. So if you think of Willow as essentially like one stable, logical qubit equivalent in a chip, we need about 4,000 to break RSA 2048. And we need about 8,000 to break SHA 256, which is the underlying encryption framework for Bitcoin. So I think you're right. I think we're in the sort of like
the end game.
2 to 5 year shot clock. No, I mean, I think what'll have to happen is some of these chains will need to obviously re-implement something at a pretty foundational level. The weird thing, as Freeberg says, is like the Willow chip's error correction gets better the more of these things you start to use together. Now, there are some really big problems inside these chips, like logical interconnects are very complicated. If you put two chips on a board, like the C2C communication is all this stuff that we haven't figured out how to do. But this is a big deal. And I was really like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Just to give you a sense on the numbers, like Google's target for fault tolerance on a quantum chip to make it logically useful is 1 × 10⁻⁶. Right now, this Willow chip is kind of running at 99.7%. So it's still a few orders of magnitude away. They have a long way to go in getting the fault tolerance low enough to actually build logical gates using qubits that can resolve kind of computational output. And so there's still a build cycle ahead, and that pathway is a little bit unclear. But what they've shown is this almost feels like the Shockley transistor moment. It's like, here's this
exactly right.
Here's this transistor. Now everyone's like,
you have a lossy transistor, and then you'll figure out p-in junctions. You'll figure out all of these ways of just like getting the error correction down. But by the way, this reinforces what you said before, which is it's hard for an outsider like us to comprehend what's really happening inside of Google, because the business they've built was able to fund this. I mean, and I went down a rabbit hole because I'd never heard of who this guy was that runs his Helmut Nevin.
He's in Santa Barbara. They have a whole team in Santa Barbara. They've been running for like 10 years.
He has his own law, Nevin's law. And then I went down the rabbit hole of that. But what's amazing is, so valuable for humanity, Google had the money to fund him for the last 12 years.
Exactly.
And
the greatest money printing machine of all time is paying dividends. Yeah.
But isn't it great to know that Google takes these resources from search, and sure, maybe there's waste, or maybe they could have done better with the Black George Washington, or maybe they could have done better with YouTube. But the other side is they've been able to incubate and germinate these brilliant people that can toil away and create these important step function advances for humanity. It's really awesome.
The Bitcoin and crypto community has been agog with speculation about how Willow could lead to the eventual creation of mighty qubit-powered computers that could endanger Bitcoin addresses in a few short years. However, experts believe legacy addresses, especially those featuring the P2PK format, are more at risk than others. Chamath states something similar in a recent tweet he wrote to address misconceptions about some things he said during the podcast. His tweet reads, "Quantum computing will be a risk to V1 cryptographic approaches. The time frame is not very clear, and it's not on the immediate time horizon. But if I owned a lot of BTC, my risk posture would be to assume it could happen and plan accordingly." Now, any potential risk to Bitcoin can be addressed through forks that implement quantum-resistant cryptography for new transactions. That said, this can't retroactively protect already exposed public keys that do not migrate. Funds in old P2PK addresses with exposed public keys will remain vulnerable to quantum computing attacks on ECDSA and will become a target. He accompanies the tweet with a chart assessing the risk over time and a 14-year-old post from Satoshi discussing what to do when SHA-256 is compromised. Satoshi's post reads, "SHA-256 is very strong. It's not like the incremental step from MD5 to SHA-1. It can last several decades unless there's some massive breakthrough attack. If SHA-256 became completely broken, I think we could come to some agreement about what the honest blockchain was before the trouble started, lock that in, and continue from there with a new hash function. If the hash breakdown came gradually, we could transition to a new hash in an orderly way. The software would be programmed to start using a new hash after a certain block number. Everyone would have to upgrade by that time. The software could save the new hash of all the old blocks to make sure a different block with the same old hash can't be used." Could Willow be the massive breakthrough attack Satoshi talked about in 2010? How do you think this will impact Bitcoin encryption standards in the coming years? Please share your thoughts, comments, and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks for watching.